Welcome back. Now, Ipsos has found that nearly 8 out of 10 retailers countrywide are selling cigarettes below the minimum tax threshold applicable on a 20-pack. The result, around 100 million rand in tax revenue is lost daily, equating to approximately 28 billion rand annually. This exceeds Sars's additional tax revenue target by 8 billion rand. Johnny Moloto, Corporate and Regulatory Head of BATSA, joins us with more detail. Johnny, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Now, illicit trade of tobacco has been a persistent issue, and looking at the findings of the survey, things don't seem to be getting better. What are we getting wrong?
I think, thank you very much, first and foremost, for the opportunity. What we are getting wrong, or rather law enforcement authorities are getting wrong, is the right level of enforcement. I think you can't fault them for seeing a lot of raids in the market, but those are targeted at the wrong people, because you need to get to the real kingpins here, who are the manufacturers. And what the study has shown consistently over the past this is the 7th wave that we've commissioned the study, is that the real kingpins are in the main 4 big manufacturers that manufacture right locally here in South Africa, and they are known to the revenue authorities. And you can see even in the numbers that the biggest drivers are these 4 big manufacturers. And that is where enforcement should be targeted at, rather than further down in the supply chain. So that has always been our call, that if you target that level of enforcement and put customs officers in the manufacturing facilities, which we have seen work at the tail end of 2018 into 2019, that gives at least it moves the needle, and it gives the revenue authorities an opportunity to collect more of the taxes that are evaded.
And just looking at, the reports over the past 7 years, as you said, it's in its 7th wave. Around 2019, we did start seeing things getting better. But then 2020, with that ban on cigarettes, that illicit market really skyrocketed around that period. Are we not getting back to those 2019 levels? Because it now seems like the illegal cigarettes are dominating the local market.
In fact, we're not getting back to those levels. If anything, the converse is true. Since 2020, the industry has lost, at least the legal industry has lost about 40% of its volumes. And with that, it's a knock-on effect. If you look at the whole value chain, from your growers to your processors, manufacturers, and ultimately into the hands of consumers, 40% of that value has been eroded. And what you are seeing now, you are seeing prices that can sell even as low as 5 rand. Hence, you see the spike in illicit as well. In the last, in 2022, for example, what cigarettes that were selling below the minimum collectible tax, which currently sits at 26 to 22 cents, has increased threefold from that period in a short space of time, which tells you that they are very emboldened because there's been no effective enforcement. They can act with impunity. So no, the trend hasn't reversed. If anything, it's accelerated.
And let's talk about, those tax implications, billions being lost, right? To be more precise, 28 billion rands in annual tax revenue is being lost to the illicit trade market.
Yes, that is correct. That translates to about 100 million every working day. And if you look at, if we bring it down to the consumer and the citizen level, what that translates into, we currently are forecasted to have 20 billion rands in tax collections for this financial year. And we narrowly escaped a VAT increase early in the year. And this amount could close that gap. If the enforcement could be targeted, there is money lying on the table that can be collected from manufacturers right here in South Africa.
And perhaps talk to me about the impact this has had on BATSA's operations. In 2023, the group had announced job cuts. From the report, it also highlights that, you're not working with as much farmers as you were working with about 2-3 years ago.
That is quite true. That, as I say, it's impacted us across the value chain and at every level, from the farmers. We used to have around 168 black tobacco farmers or emerging farmers, and now that has been reduced to only 10 that are left in that space. And if you look at further up with the bigger commercial farmers, that number has also drastically reduced, 40% of that number. We have just over 100 left of those farmers who are, have decided to focus on other crops. Whereas with the emerging farmers, they don't have that power to invest in, migrating to other crops. And similarly with our processors, that has had a knock-on effect. BAT itself has, over the past few years, gone through a number of restructures just to ensure operational efficiencies, because at the moment, the cost of manufacturing have become quite high because of all these impacts that are associated with illicit trade. So for us, we are saying to the Revenue Authority, the other tool you have for us now is you could easily, as you allocate licenses, revoke licenses of those manufacturers that don't play by the rules.
And before I let you go then, Johnny, perhaps walk me through, just your take around the capacity law enforcement then has to deal with this illicit trade market. You mentioned that, the raids are targeting the smaller players, whereas the real kingpins here are the manufacturers. Is it an issue here of capacity?
Yes, we've had the commissioner call over the years since he took office in 2019 that, the capacity of Sars to enforce has been eroded during the years of state capture. And he has been steadily building up that capacity, which is commendable because we are seeing the results of that, in successive years where collections from ordinary citizens have improved and legal businesses have improved, but we don't see it in this space. And we're encouraged with the recent allocation by the Minister of Finance in the budget, where he specifically called out illicit trade in tobacco, that, these resources will help in fighting the scourge of illicit. So what stands to be seen is for us to see whether indeed those resources are going to be deployed in that manner, and that we can still start seeing the tide change. But we are still quite concerned that, so much time has lapsed and the illicit problem has grown bigger. The illicit players have become richer. They have far bigger budgets to even take the authorities to court. We saw it, last year, where they challenged the revenue authorities in installing CCTV cameras in an effort to enforce, and took them to court. And, that case is still pending.
All right, Johnny, thanks so much for your time and just walking us through and unpacking that report. That was Johnny Moloto, Corporate and Regulatory Head of BATSA.